drinks can be so tricky, and I get a lot of questions about drinks. And so I thought, what better way to shed some light on this very interesting topic than to bring you three experts in this arena to share their insights and go deeper into the world of drinks. What's shakin' bacon? I'm Joni Simon. Welcome to my studio. This is where I do food photography, and the goal here is to improve your food photography skills so you can feel confident behind the camera. And like I said, we are kicking off today all about drinks, and this is actually a three-part series. Now, all three parts are available today, but each individual interview and conversation was unique and special in its own right, so I wanted to give each of them their own video. And so these are each interview videos with people who are specifically experts in the world of drinks photography. Although the third one, he's not a photographer, which is a lot of fun. More on that later. But we're going to be diving behind the scenes of drinks photos, talking through lighting, special considerations. We're going to be talking a lot about ice, because of course ice is super important to drinks. And so first up, the person who actually inspired this series is a member of the Bite Shot Facebook group, and he posted this stunner of a photo in the group, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, that's phenomenal. And looking at that photo though, there were definitely some things that piqued my interest and thought, you know, we got to make some videos on this. And so very first up, we've got Stuart Anderson from Sacramento, California, an incredibly talented photographer who's got a special eye when it comes to drinks. And so with no further ado, let's talk to Stuart.
I mean, one of the things that I think I appreciate about your work so much, and why I think it really turned a lot of heads when you posted the images in the Facebook group, was that you have a lot of precision. It seems very like there's a certain amount of calculation going into what you're doing. Would you say that's true?
Very much, yeah. I mean, it gets very picky with, you want everything to be just right. You know, nothing, no little things on the glass or anything weird going on with anything. Everything has to be precise. The lighting needs to be precise, and everything needs to be about the product, pretty much. You know, the product has to be the star, whether it's the beverage or the glassware itself. And sometimes those can kind of go together too. But
Yeah, no, it's that the beauty of the precision. And for you, you know, I think different photographers handle it differently. But for you, how much of that is happening in camera and how much of that is happening in post?
I try to get as much as I can in camera. You know, that's the goal. That's always the goal, is just to get as much as I can in camera. There are some things that are just a little bit trickier to pull off all the way in camera. You know, there's some things where I'll put reflectors, you know, behind a drink and composite the reflection of the liquid, you know, passing through the liquid into another shot to just highlight the liquid. Because there's some, there's ways of going about it to do it all in one shot, but it can be a lot more time consuming than actually doing it post sometimes. So
Yeah.
again, I would say, you know, most of the time, 95% is just done in camera.
Yeah.
But
Can we talk about one of your shots? Because you've shared, I mean, I love your images. You shared with me a particular image. We're going to get into the ice here in a minute, but this particular drink that it's kind of on it's this really cool glass on a three-quarter angle with the red backdrop. Was this all in one shot, or was this multiples put together?
It is two shots, but actually the second shot I ended up, I think it was a 25% opacity on the layer that I ended up comping in. It was a little bit much when I did a gold reflector basically behind the liquid. And when I had it on even like 50%, it just felt, sometimes it can feel fake. You have to kind of find that balance of like what's making it look good and what's making it just look fake. And it was kind of funny actually when I finished and looked at the shot that was in camera compared to what I ended with. There wasn't a huge difference, but yeah, it is a composite, but it's mainly just one shot. And the red background is that's red gel for that, and that was that kind of a happy accident there. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do there, and threw a red gel on there, and I was like, "Ooh, this is kind of cool." And
I love those happy accidents, right? You're
Yeah.
just sort of doing things. You go, oh, okay, hold the forks. Like, just do that. That's going to be great.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I hope this gets taken the right way. One of the things that I appreciate, because of course, you know, in the Facebook group, you've got to share what you're shooting with, in terms of your camera and your settings and things like that. And
Right.
what I think made your images that much more exciting to everyone is that you're not shooting with some sort of like, you know, top tier, high end, $10,000 cameras. Like, you're using
Right.
you know, some very accessible gear in these situations,
Right.
and proof positive that you don't need to go spend an arm and a leg. So can you share with everybody kind of what's your go-to in terms of the gear that you're using for your drinks and product photography?
Yeah, sure. So the camera that I've been sticking to for a while now I would like to upgrade, but I use A6000, Sony A6000,
Mm-hmm.
and the Sony 90 millimeter macro, um, and a good sturdy tripod
Mm-hmm.
with a Benro geared head, which is actually, I don't know if you've ever used a geared head or any, but
I haven't.
it comes in really handy because so you can do full movements within the tripod head, but then you
Okay.
can basically dial it in with very smooth adjustments. That's why it's called a geared head, because you can just slowly turn each thing to really dial in where everything is.
Going back to that precision that you're all about.
Yes. Yes.
It's
Now,
supposed to be,
I
I'm
don't
like,
know.
just crank it this way, crank it this way. People are like, you should get a level. I'm like, it's fine. It's fine.
No, I still struggle with it. I mean, it's still always, especially working on the black plexiglass, sometimes that
Yeah.
horizon line can get funny without even realizing it.
Yeah.
But that's
Well,
another
we'll be
thing.
sure to get the link to that, because I'm sure some folks, you know, I know that's something that's such an important investment that I would say something to prioritize to some degree over, you know, camera upgrades and other things like that is a really quality tripod can really make or break and make such a difference in your workflow and in your work.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, so the reason that you're to blame for this entire video, because you posted that image and I looked at it, and specifically the thing that caught my eye was the ice. And I thought, oh, that ice is really beautiful. And just knowing, kind of being familiar with it, I mean, it looked like real ice, but I had a
Right.
suspicion. I'm like, I'm going to bet that's the really great Trengove fake ice. And sure enough, it was, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So then that kind of got me thinking. I'm like, you know, the world of fake ice, there's a lot of fake ice out there, and there's a lot of different options, but you know, I think the commentary that came down in the thread there was that it is well worth the price and the cost of paying for the real stuff. So you went and took it one step further, and I want to walk through and have you explain to everybody just sort of some comparisons of when we're dealing with the, you know, fake ice, real ice. Because for you, you know, what's the reason that you would want to use the fake ice over the real stuff?
I mean, number one is it doesn't melt. It doesn't melt. You know, I mean, it can take time to set stuff up and get the lighting just right. And then, you know, if you're not ready for everything and you have real ice, I mean, it changes quick. And
yeah, because you've got the 10 minutes. So you've got sort of the same sort of drink setup. And I want to walk us through the comparison. So you took a shot with some, well, let's say the best case. What do you mean by best case real ice?
So that the best case real ice, that's where, you know, I got the glass there, I got the lighting set up, I've got everything ready to go, and I get the ice in the glass, I get the drink poured into it as nice as I can without getting around the edges as much as I can,
Yeah.
and take the photo, you know,
Yeah.
like just do that right away without getting the other melting and dripping and everything that ends up happening.
Mm-hmm.
So that I consider that kind of best case. You get everything set up, you take the picture.
Yeah, that's what you're hoping for, because we've got sort of the best case cubes that look like they're coming out of your refrigerator at home.
Yeah.
Like I've got it in my freezer at home,
Right.
as opposed to the homemade clear ice. So that's
Right.
explain to everybody what's sort of the distinction of the ice that just comes out of your freezer versus an example like this.
So anything you get out of your freezer, the stuff your refrigerator puts out is going to be that like white, cloudy, like just generic, ice that you always get from a refrigerator. That you can see the minerals in it. Is basically what you're seeing, the minerals in the water, and then with clear ice, it's frozen in a way. From basically, I do it in an igloo.
Oh, like one of those like cooler
Cooler,
containers?
yes, 5 gallon.
5 gallon? How big is 5 gallon though?
It's
That's
not
pretty big.
It's not all
That's
that big.
okay.
It's like one of the smaller.
Okay.
You pop the top off, fill it with like almost to the top with water, and put it in the freezer. You fill it with like just hot tap water, and put it in the freezer for 24 hours. And then what happens is it freezes from the top down, and it pushes all the minerals out of the ice to where it's clear. And just cut it up and put it in a baggie in the freezer, and then get it back out and use it.
But that's certainly a process. I mean, that's not something that you just like, oh, I'm going to just do this.
Definitely. Yeah. It's something you have to plan for, and it is a whole process.
Yeah. So we've got the best case real homemade clear ice, and we've got the best case standard real ice. But then, so you've got that beautiful clear ice that you've made, and you've gone through the trouble of putting it into this, 5-gallon situation and freezing it and cutting it and doing all these things, getting it to the right size. And then after 10 minutes, what happens?
I mean, it gets small, it changes shape, the glass starts to get the condensation on the outside, which can be good or bad depending on what you're going for, right?
Sure.
But and from the very beginning, as soon as you pour something into it, the ice starts moving around.
Yeah.
You try to get it in that position where it looks just right and take a picture, and then like it's just like rotating around in the glass and changing positions and immediately melting.
Yeah. And for somebody like you who's all about the precision, you want everything staying put exactly where it's supposed to be, because the second that you're going to throw that, reflector in, you're going to throw that gold card, you want to ensure. And two, from that composite standpoint, that if it's shifting and changing, that's going to mess your post-process up.
Yes. Yes.
So we've gone through all those. So then at this point, I think we all have a pretty good indication. Okay, it's time for the fake ice. And I know that I have purchased this personally before. So here's the Amazon, what is it, like $10 for a bag of?
Oh yeah, it's like 20 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, that gets the job done too. I mean, I used that for a couple of years, and if that's what you can get. Mm-hmm. And it definitely gets the job done, and it can be passable. It takes a little bit more tweaking and editing, I've found, because they get chipped and stuff pretty easily. But of course I do like splash shots with them, so that I'm dropping them into glasses. And
Stuart's over there getting crazy with the throwing ice around. And I think that these cubes too and I still use these cubes, especially for like background and for when it's not the hero, these can be really great to use.
Yeah, or like I don't have a ton of the really good ice yet. So if I want to use like a taller glass and have it seem like there's a lot of ice in it, but those don't float. So sometimes you got to make it like just full of ice to make it not so noticeable that it's not floating. Right.
Yeah.
So I've got a bunch of the cheap ice, and it can really pass. And most people who don't know, right? Like,
right. It's those trained eyeballs that get us in trouble.
And yeah, once you've used it for a while, you're like, oh yeah, there's that ice again. There's that ice, because you just see it. You see it.
But now here we are to the final illustration, the Trengove Ice, that I saw in that photo, and I was like, I know what you're doing right there. So to you, like, you know, when you look at the difference of this ice compared to maybe the Amazon ice, or even, I mean, clearly we've got a lot of clarity, we've got a lot of sharpness, like it really shows off the drink and the glassware and all that. But, you know, for you, when you use this ice, and the reason that you would spend so much money, because they're not cheap cubes. I mean, you know, I own my like 10, and I take very good care of them. But what are some of the characteristics you think that just really set this apart?
The individual cubes are all individual. You know, like they're not the same. That you can, each side is even different. You know, you can change it to look a certain way, and they just look so much more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they catch the light, they're if I had to put a word to it, I would say luxurious ice.
Yeah.
You know, like that, if you're really going for that, like just really luxurious look.
Yeah.
I think that really does it.
Well, and you think of, like, you know, folks who are shooting for liquor brands and beverage brands, like there's a certain luxury to those brands. It's a part of their aesthetic. And so understanding that if that is the arena you're going to pursue, that's what you're going to focus on. Those are things that those kind of clients are really going to be looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you so much to Stuart for taking the time to make this video with me and to share those insights about ice. I thought that was super fascinating. But this is not the end of the series. We've got another video right after this, so you can go ahead and watch that. It's with Campbell. He is a world-renowned photographer, food photographer, specializing in drinks. His drinks photos they mesmerize me. And there is a giveaway that he's running, which all the information about that is in the next video. And so with that, I'll see you in the next video.